Silence, then a deafening roar as 100,000 Romans rise to their feet, their eyes fixed on the sand-stained arena below. Steel flashes under the blistering Mediterranean sun. A deadly dance between two warriors, one bound for glory, the other for oblivion. This is not just a fight. It is a meticulously choreographed ritual of life and death, a primal spectacle that defined an empire. Welcome to the brutal, captivating world of the Roman gladiator. They were slaves, criminals, and sometimes desperate freemen, yet they commanded the adoration of millions, their names etched into history by blood and sand. On Voices from History, we peel back the layers of myth to reveal the astonishing, often heartbreaking, true story of these legendary fighters. From their mysterious ancient origins to their dramatic, eventual disappearance, prepare to journey through every facet of the gladiator's complex and often contradictory existence. Long before the majestic arches of the Colosseum pierced the Roman sky, the seeds of gladiatorial combat were sown in a far more somber sacred ground, the funerary rites of the enigmatic Etruscans. In their ancient world, death was not merely an end, but a complex transition, requiring powerful offerings to appease the spirits of the departed. These early contests, known as munera, were not thrilling entertainment. They were grim, sacred duties, a final bloody tribute to deceased nobles. Enslaved individuals were compelled to fight, often to the death, their sacrificed lives believed to purify the deceased and guarantee their safe passage into the afterlife. The belief was deeply rooted. The shedding of blood held a potent, cleansing power, ensuring the spiritual well-being of the dead. The earliest documented Roman munus echoes this tradition, dating back to 264 BC, when three pairs of gladiators fought at the funeral of Decimus Junius Brutus Para. What began as a solemn, private family affair, a desperate plea to the underworld, would slowly but inexorably transform. This ancient sacrificial ritual began its long evolution, shifting from the confines of aristocratic homes to eventually engulfing vast public spaces, forever changing the face of Roman society. As Rome's empire swelled, conquering vast territories and assimilating diverse cultures, so too did the ambition and scale of these bloody spectacles. The sacred ritual of the Etruscans morphed into something far more potent, a formidable instrument of political influence and public control. Ambitious politicians and powerful generals quickly grasped the raw power inherent in sponsoring lavish games or looting. These extravagant displays were not mere entertainment. They were calculated maneuvers to flaunt immense wealth, consolidate power, and, crucially, curry favor with the Roman populace. The allure of spectacular bloodshed, the promise of visceral thrills, proved an irresistible elixir, keeping the plebs, the common people, entertained, distracted, and ultimately compliant. Emperors, from the calculating Augustus to the victorious Trajan, and especially the revered Titus, mastered this art. The Colosseum, officially the Flavian amphitheater, stands as the enduring testament to this understanding. A colossal marvel of engineering, its grand opening inaugurated with 100 days of games. It became the ultimate purpose-built stage for these contests. Its ingenious design, from the intricate network of underground passages to the vast tiered seating, facilitated spectacles on a scale previously unimaginable, truly democratizing death, daring for the masses. If this deep dive into the strategic mind of ancient Rome and its captivating culture has already piqued your interest, please hit that like button right now to show your support for Voices from History. It helps us bring more incredible stories to life. Step into the arena and you entered a world of specialized combatants, a living kaleidoscope of fighting styles, armor, and weaponry, each meticulously designed for dramatic contrast. This wasn't chaotic brawling, it was a tactical ballet of destruction, orchestrated for maximum audience engagement. Picture the formidable Mamillo, heavily armored, often adorned with a distinctive fish-crested helmet, a massive rectangular scutum shield, and a short, lethal sword, the gladius. This hulking powerhouse typically faced opponents who relied on speed and evasion. His arch-nemesis might be the retiarius, the net man, a figure of stark contrast, lightly armored perhaps with only a shoulder shoulder guard and arm protection, the retiarius fought with dazzling agility, wielding a barbed trident, a small dagger, and his signature weapon, a weighted net cast to ensnare and disorient his foe. Imagine the drama as the lumbering Murmillo tried to close the distance against the elusive net fighter. Then there was the fearsome Thrax, or Thracian, easily identified by his small, square shield and the menacing, curved short sword. The Sicca, designed for disarming and slashing. An older, majestic type was the Samnite, who, with his large oval scutum, plumed helmet, and short sword, visually evoked the early enemies of Rome, adding a layer of historical narrative to the combat. And often paired against the retiarius, the Secutor, the chaser, wore a smooth ovoid helmet with minimalized slits, specifically crafted to prevent the retiarius's net from snagging. These pairings were not arbitrary. They were strategic masterpieces, each gladiator type presenting a unique tactical puzzle for their opponent to solve. Every swing, every thrust, every evasive dodge was a calculation, ensuring a diverse, gripping, and deeply personal spectacle for the roaring masses. Life as a gladiator, though often agonizingly short, was governed by a brutal, unyielding discipline. The vast majority were unfortunates, enslaved persons, prisoners of war, or condemned criminals, their lives forfeited to the arena. Yet a peculiar irony existed. Some freeborn men, driven by desperate poverty, a thirst for fame, or even a morbid desire for glory, would voluntarily sign contracts, exchanging their liberty for the perilous life of a gladiator. They committed to the ludus, the specialized training school, surrendering themselves to the absolute command of the Lanista, the owner and trainer, who held their very lives in his hands. The training was relentless, a crucible of strength, endurance, and the mastery of specific weapon combinations, often using wooden blunts against straw dummies known as polydidactide. Their diet, surprisingly, was often largely vegetarian, a carefully controlled regimen designed not just for strength, but to build a protective layer of subcutaneous fat believed to shield against superficial wounds and blunt impact. Despite their degraded status, successful gladiators ascended to the dizzying heights of superstardom. Their faces graced pottery and mosaics, their names scrawled as graffiti across city walls like ancient athletes or rock stars. Women would famously swoon over them. Poets would immortalize their triumphs in verse. Yet beneath the veneer of fame, the chilling specter of death loomed over every single bout, a brutal, inescapable reality. This is the profound paradox of the gladiator's existence. Celebrated heroes one moment, disposable commodities the next. They were both esteemed entertainers and enslaved vulnerable beings, their lives a constant tightrope walk between glory and oblivion. What are your initial thoughts on this incredibly complex social standing, this stark paradox of fame intertwined with absolute servitude? Share your perspectives and any related stories in the comments below. We at Voices from History would genuinely love to hear from you and engage in the conversation. The moment a gladiator stepped onto the hallowed, blood-soaked sand of the arena, the atmosphere was not merely electric, it was a visceral, almost religious experience. The grand procession, the pompa, paraded the combatants before the emperor, his retinue, and the fervent roaring masses, a grand spectacle before the main event. In a moment that has echoed through history, gladiators would often pause, look up at the emperor's box, and utter the chilling, iconic salute. Ave Imperator, morituri te saluta. Hail, Emperor, those who are about to die salute you. It was a stark acknowledgement of their fate, a defiant acceptance, or perhaps a desperate plea. The fights themselves were raw, brutal, and surprisingly often swift. While the primary objective was typically to injure and incapacitate, to force surrender rather than to always deliver the killing blow, death remained an ever-present, terrifying possibility. When a gladiator fell, wounded, or exhausted. The fate of their life rested in the hands of the crowd, and ultimately, the emperor. Their collective will, expressed through various gestures, often simplified today as thumbs up for mercy or thumbs down for the final stroke, sealed the combatant's destiny. Victory, however, brought more than just survival. It brought fleeting glory, a coveted purse of prize money, and for the truly exceptional, the ultimate life-altering reward, freedom, symbolized by the presentation of a wooden sword, the rudis. For the Roman people, these games transcended mere entertainment. They were a profound, albeit brutal, mirror reflecting the very core of their society's values, its hierarchical power structure, and its deep, complex fascination with death, honor, and courage. While the vast majority of gladiators fought and died within the confines of this brutal system, one name blazes through history as a defiant meteor, challenging the very foundations of Roman power. Spartacus, a Thracian gladiator. His story begins in 73 BC, when he, alongside a handful of fellow gladiators, broke free from a ludus in Capua. What began as a desperate escape quickly ignited into one of the largest and most terrifying slave rebellions Rome ever faced. Spartacus led tens of thousands of enslaved people and disenfranchised poor in a desperate struggle for freedom, routing Roman legions and striking fear into the heart of the Republic for years. His extraordinary saga, though an exception to the gladiator's usual fate, serves as a stark, powerful reminder of the crushing underlying brutality, the widespread enslavement, and the simmering desperation that relentlessly fueled the entire gladiatorial machine. It was a constant reminder of the immense potential for defiance, even within the most meticulously controlled and oppressive environments. For nearly 7 centuries, the gladiatorial games had been an undeniable cornerstone, a pulsating artery of Roman society. But as the once invincible empire began its long, agonizing decline, the fervor for these bloody spectacles inevitably waned. A confluence of powerful forces slowly, inexorably extinguished the flame of gladiatorial combat. Perhaps the most significant cultural shift was the inexorable rise of Christianity. Early Christians vehemently condemned the games, viewing them as utterly pagan, profoundly immoral, and a grievous affront to the sanctity of human life. As Christianity transformed from a persecuted sect into the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, its moral compass steadily, relentlessly chipped away at public enthusiasm and imperial sponsorship for the brutal contests. Emperors, under increasing Christian influence, began to act. Constantine the Great, though his ban in 325 AD was imperfectly enforced, and games continued in various forms, signaled a monumental shift. Later, Emperor Honorius issued his own decisive edicts, further curtailing and ultimately abolishing the games. This gradual but profound shift in moral sensibilities and cultural values increasingly favored less violent, more civilized forms of public spectacle. Concurrently, the empire's escalating economic woes played a critical, practical role, maintaining hundreds of gladiators, constructing new arenas, and staging elaborate multi-day ludi became an unconscionable burden for a state teetering on the brink of fiscal collapse. The cost-benefit analysis simply no longer added up. Furthermore, the relentless barbarian invasions from the 4th century onwards dramatically reoriented Rome's priorities. The very survival of the empire became paramount. Resources, manpower, and attention were desperately diverted to defending precarious borders, not squandered on lavish entertainment. The last officially recorded gladiatorial games in the venerable city of Rome are most commonly cited as 404 AD. This date, etched into history, symbolically marks the official end of a brutal, glorious era, though isolated contests undoubtedly flickered on for a time in more remote regions of the crumbling empire. It was not an abrupt, sudden curtain fall, but rather a slow, agonizing fade, as the magnificent brutal world that had spawned and sustained the gladiators gradually, irrevocably crumbled around them. If you're finding this deep dive into the forces that shaped and ended ancient Roman entertainment both educational and thoroughly engaging, please consider sharing this video with friends or family who might also appreciate learning about the fascinating complexities of ancient Rome. Today, millennia after the last clang of steel in the arena, the image of the gladiator remains undeniably iconic, deeply ingrained in the very fabric of popular culture. From epic Hollywood films that romanticize their struggles to adrenaline-fueled video games that let us embody their might, they symbolize raw strength, unwavering struggle, and the ultimate visceral fight for survival. Yet, as we immerse ourselves in these captivating portrayals, it is absolutely crucial to remember the complex, often tragic, historical reality. These were not simply heroes. They were instruments, often unwilling, of a colossal political and social machine. Their lives were frequently brief and brutal, their deaths spectacular public executions. Yet within that horrifying crucible, they embodied a raw, undeniable human spirit, courage, resilience, and the will to survive against impossible odds. Their enduring legacy continues to fascinate us, offering an unparalleled window into the often barbaric values, the sophisticated engineering, and the profound psychological needs that shaped one of history's greatest, most powerful empires. From the eerie, somber Etruscan funerary rituals to the awe-inspiring, brutal vastness of imperial Rome's arenas, the gladiators' tumultuous journey is a testament to the chilling ingenuity of human spectacle, the depths of human brutality, and the enduring magnetic power of organized entertainment. We have journeyed through their mysterious origins, witnessed their diverse fighting forms, endured their harsh, unforgiving training, and traced their eventual, gradual disappearance from the stage of history. Their complex story serves as a powerful, haunting reminder of how intertwined entertainment, unchecked power, and evolving morality have truly been over the millennia. Thank you for joining us on this unflinching deep dive into the electrifying, brutal world of the Roman gladiators, here on Voices from History. If you've been captivated by this exploration of ancient history and are eager to uncover more astonishing, meticulously researched stories from the past, then do not hesitate. Make sure to subscribe to Voices from History right now for regular, engaging content delivered straight to you.